In this video, we're going to review the site structure address point editing tool template in the Arizona NextGen 911 address management solution. We will learn to use the site structure address point feature class template to streamline the NG911 data creation and maintenance. This will be assuming you've already appended your local data set to the file geodatabase data model included in the address management solution. So here, just pointing out again the file geodatabase that the address management solution is utilizing and has data design features and attribute rules, as well as custom domains assigned to fields as well as to the template feature classes in order to trigger an automated data creation. So before we get too far in, I do want to show you kind of what's under the hood. If you right click on the feature class template site structure address points and select data design, you can see domains and attribute options. If we look at the attribute rules option, you can see that there's a list of about 14 attribute rules that are assigned. We have attribute rules that are triggered during an insert of a new record to create the discrepancy agency ID based on the spatial location that the point falls within in the provisioning boundary. So it's very important that we maintain the supportive feature classes within not only the file geodatabase in the project or in the address management solution, but also the hosted feature classes that are in the address management solution pro project. You'll also see that the closest road information, that attribute rule is actually going to do some mathematical equations in order to calculate and estimate the road street name to be assigned to the address point, as well as the address number. So definitely interesting to review, but why don't we see the attribute rules and these feature class template tools in action. So as we pan to East 8th Street here in Safford, we can create a new feature, either going to edit ribbon, selecting create, and utilizing the create features pane. Here I have it docked. I'm going to quickly show you some of the properties. You'll notice the tools that are checked on for this template feature class, as well as some of the default records assigned. Those can and will change based on the data creation and because of the attribute rules that are triggered to update those when a new feature is inserted or created. Since we've seen what's under the hood in these feature class template for site structure address points, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the attribute table while creating new feature classes. You can either use the attribute table to review or to check each address point that's created. Additionally, you can utilize the attributes pane that you can see here in the upper right of my Pro project interface. So we're going to go ahead and do a show only selected so that when I create a new address, when I create a new address point along East 8th Street, we can see that the attribute rules are populating the site structure address point fields, starting with the NGUID, county, and state. And these are all assigned, most of them are assigned to domains, which will help to maintain and manage the integrity of the data that's being submitted. If you ever find that the domain is missing a value that maybe your entity utilizes, you can submit a ticket or report a bug, if you will, identifying or letting the Arizona 911 program know that something needs to be added. We're going to go ahead and take a look at creating another address point just to kind of get you comfortable with this idea. You can see that the address point that's being created is assigned an address number based on that closest road attribute rule we touched on earlier. At any point, if you find you need to change that address number, you definitely can, but here you can see the MSAGs populated, ESN, postal code, postal community, and then the full address field is also populated based on those attribute rules that we kind of touched on earlier. So that is creating address points very simply. To get into kind of more of the weeds of the workflow, you can see that creating an address point that's maybe in between several different roads may cause a hiccup in that calculation. So here I placed an address point in between 3 potential roads that address point would pick up as far as its address number and name information, street name information. So just to show you the example of the closest road, we're grabbing the measuring tool and just measuring out to the closer roads. And you can see that the expression that was built into the attribute rules is choosing the United States Highway 70 because technically that is the closest road. If for whatever reason I identify that the address is actually should be assigned to East 7th Street, I can manually go into the street name field, type in 7th, hit enter, change using the domains, the street name pre-type to null, and maintain that street name pre-directional as east. Additionally, I can go in and change the address number to align with the address range that the road center line I'm attaching this address point to or aligning it to would conform with. So that gives you kind of a more in-depth scenario that you may need to go in and do some manual adjustments. I'll save my edits now that I've confirmed the correct or updated the correct address information. I can select address points that I've already established and make changes to those address points. So let's say, this 669 East 8th Street should actually be 521, in which case I can update that address number, maintaining the parity as odd, and that'll update the full street address as well. For review, we learned about attribute rules for the site structure address point. We touched briefly on the important role that the attribute rules play in the data management process. We also discussed briefly the getting closest road information and how this attribute rule calculates the address number and the address street name fields based on the road segment that is closest to where the address point is placed. We also took a look at some of the other attributes that are populated when creating a new site structure address point in the address management solution. To learn how to use the road centerline editing tool template, tune in to the next video. Happy mapping!